Female hair loss is a stigma that is not talked about. Men lose their hair in their 20s and they shave it and they rock it. And what I've learned through this journey, though, is men suffer from this pain too. They just don't talk about it either. But yet when they go out in public with a head shaved, it's no big deal. Hi, Skin Friend. Thanks so much for tuning into this week's episode of The Skin Reel. This week, I am veering off my normal podcast episodes where I normally am discussing skin health with experts and leaders in the field. But I have a woman who has an amazing story, and I just wanted her to share it with you. Today, I'm interviewing Barb Betts, and she is a realtor in a former life, but now she is the phenomenal CEO of Relately Marketing. She's a renowned keynote speaker and entrepreneur with over 20 years of experience. But what she is most known for now is her Relate program, where she teaches professionals how to grow their business through authentic, measurable relationship building. So she is all about teaching people how to communicate with each other to build relationships with each other so that you can grow your business and your personal life. But here's why I'm bringing her on The Skin Reel. I heard her on a podcast. I believe it was the Influential Personal Brand podcast with AJ and Rory Vaden. And she was sharing her experience as an entrepreneur, but what she was also sharing, Barb began experiencing losing her hair even at the early age of 20. And despite tons of medical testing and interventions and products and procedures, nothing was giving her measurable, reliable results, and nothing was really growing her hair back. She finally had a pivotal moment when she met with a hair transplant specialist who basically let her know the stats about whether she should go through with a hair transplant, what it would cost, and then also what kind of results she could expect. And at that moment, her world just kind of collapsed because she realized she wasn't a good candidate for a hair transplant. But she totally pivoted, turned her life around by starting to wear wigs. And the power of these wigs just transformed her, where she no longer felt the shame, the secrecy. She is very open now about her hair loss journey and where she started and now where she is. And I think that's just one of the reasons why she has been so wildly successful with her business, because she is so authentic. She shares pictures with her wig, without her wig. And I know hair loss for women is so emotionally charged. This is a topic that really strikes fear into not just men, but women as well. And we don't talk about it a lot. And women, when they are losing their hair, we think they're sick or they're going through cancer or something terrible has happened. And so Barb, it's just freeing to hear her talk about her hair loss journey and how she's overcome those thoughts and how she's really thriving with it, and how even if a pill were available now to reverse all her hair loss, she would not take it. If you want to hear this powerful story, be sure to stick around. Barb, I am so glad you're here. I've been looking forward to our episode for a long time, ever since I heard you on a podcast kind of sharing your story. And I thought my audience needs to hear this. So thank you so much for being here.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to have this conversation.
Yeah, so this is a little bit of a departure from my normal podcast episodes where I'm talking about skin issues from like dermatologists or other physicians. And you're not a physician. You are a very successful, smart, intelligent woman. But why you're here is because you are suffering from something that a lot of people suffer with, and that's hair loss. And I just want you to share your journey because I know it's had some ups and downs. And I feel like you're finally at a place like at peace with it. And I would just love to hear about your journey, and maybe you could just introduce yourself for the audience.
This journey, it's an important conversation. So I'm so happy to have it. So my name's Barb. I have been a business owner for over 20 years. I have been in the real estate industry for most of my career, and I've recently transitioned out into more of a keynote speaking role. I'm out in all kinds of various industries. The business side of Barb is all about teaching business owners how to build authentic relationships and how to leverage their business using the power of relationships and creating trust and authenticity and all those kinds of things. And what's interesting about that is that keynote speaking journey started as a result of my hair loss. So you just never know where life's going to take you, and where this pretty much awful thing in my life that has caused me so much pain and sadness and stress and overwhelm has now turned into really a beautiful story, and has really been what's propelled me into this new career that I love so much.
Isn't that amazing how life, like in the moment, right? I'm sure you felt like, why me? Why is this happening? And now to look back and realize, okay, I see why this happened. This has led me to where I am. And for you to be speaking about relationships, right? Like probably in the deepest pit of despair when you're going through hair loss, probably the last thing you wanted to do was interface with people and have relationships, right? Like I can imagine, I know when my skin isn't looking perfect or whatever, it's like, ooh, I can't be seen. I have to shy away. So that's really interesting. And I definitely want to hear about that journey. But tell us, like, how did everything start with your hair loss? Like, when did this begin?
So the interesting part is I didn't know then, but I know now this actually started at about 18 years old. So I got pregnant with my son at 17 with my amazing husband. Fast forward, we're still together 27 years later. And I noticed my part line starting to thin a bit. And I kind of had a teeny tiny little spot on the very front of my forehead. And every hairstylist I would ask about it just told me, oh, your hair's just too heavy. Your hair's just too heavy. Now, actually back up, as a young child and a girl and a teenager, I had a head full of hair, pretty much as long as yours, thick and curly. I had so much hair. My mom used to have to comb out my hair with like shampoo in a water bottle diluted down, or conditioner in a water bottle diluted down a little bit just to get the tangles out. That's how much hair I had. And so as it started to thin, hairstylists kept telling me, oh, it's just too heavy. It's just too heavy. It's just too heavy. That wasn't what was going on. My hair loss had already started. My hair thinning had already started. And so fast forward through my late teens and, early adulthood in my 20s and my early 30s, it just was there. It was never anything I noticed. There wasn't clumps in the bathroom. There wasn't a ton of hair coming out at an extreme rate. I didn't really notice too much. I just noticed it kept getting thinner and I was losing density. However, in my mid-30s, I woke up one day. I was going through an extremely stressful situation in my business. I woke up one day and I brushed my hair and I had two 50-cent size alopecia spots. I didn't know they were alopecia spots. I woke up to completely bald baby's rear end, could not find the hair. I still don't know where the hair went. It was gone. And funny enough, the first person I called was my OBGYN. And I was like, oh my God, what do I do? What is this? Something's wrong with me. I'm dying. And she's like, you need to get to a dermatologist right away. And so she got me connected to my amazing dermatologist, who I still have today. So a blessing, right? Another point in the story, a blessing. I went in to Dr. Javahari, and Dr. Javahari said, listen, typically when I see this is an immune reaction. Something's going on in your system. I'm going to do some steroid injections to try to get that hair to come right back because you just lost it. Possibly we can get it to come back. But you likely have some kind of underlying autoimmune condition that you don't even know you have. And so she ran an ANA panel. It came back positive. And then she sent me to an internist to do some investigation. And so the hair did start to come back. I started to get little stubbles, eventually came back. And those patches did grow back, if you will. Went to the internist. He did a full workup, found out I have Hashimoto's. Hashimoto's autoimmune disease of the thyroid, very common in women, very common to be discovered later in women's lives. I was very blessed to find mine in my mid-30s, another blessing from this experience. So I could start getting treatment and figure out, oh, that's why I'm so tired. That's why my hair is falling out. That's why some days I feel plugged in and plugged out. That's why I'm cold all the time, all these things. So got treated for my Hashimoto's, started kind of down that journey, but the hair continued to thin. And the hair continued to fall out. And the hair then in my late 30s, early 40s started falling out at an alarming rate. And again, nothing instant, nothing just over time.
Did people kind of dismiss you though by saying, oh, but your hair's so thick, I don't see it, like especially in the beginning?
The messaging always was, oh, well, it's not that bad. It's not that bad. It's not that bad. It's not that bad. I don't think it's that bad. And it's like, okay, but look what it was. Right? It's like, it may not be that bad, but look what it was. And so, yeah, people would definitely minimize it because to them, it wasn't that big of a deal. To me, it was a huge deal.
Yeah, especially if you're starting with like really thick hair, it's hard for people to see. They're like, it still looks thick to me, but you're like, no, but it's different. My ponytail's not as thick. I'm noticing it. Like you knew something was going on.
Yeah, I kept cutting it shorter and shorter. Nothing was getting better. It wasn't improving. I tried every serum, I tried every vitamin, I tried everything on the market, and nothing made it better.
Okay, so you were saying you got treated for the Hashimoto's, but it's still falling out. Now, were you noticing like clumps of hair, or did you just wake up and it was thin?
Yeah, when you would brush, tons of hair would come out. There'd be hair all over the bathroom floor. I had naturally very dark hair, so the hair would be super dark all over the floor, in the shower, all of those types of things. And then it started to get noticeable. And then you started to be able to see scalp. And so an old hairstylist that I was going to, he suggested I start using Topic, which is, the hair building fibers that you squirt into your hair and you spray down with hairspray. And that's what I lived on for years. And honestly, it was life changing at that time because I was able to kind of build back in a part and style my hair.
Oh, this is interesting. So this is like a spray that makes it look like hair?
It is. Comes in a container. You can get it at Ulta or any of the beauty stores. It's Toppik. I highly recommend it to any friends that have thinning areas or spots. And you buy a little pump that goes on the top and it has a long skinny tube and you just spray it on your part line. I would kind of spray it all over and then I would hairspray it down. And it worked. And my friends, to your point, would be like, "Oh my God, your hair is getting so great. Oh my gosh, it's so much better." And I would be like, "Yeah, yeah." And inside, I'm just crumbling because it's not getting better, right? Because I still have to wash it out, and I still have to look at myself with wet hair and know that it's really bad, and start thinking to myself, "Am I going to lose all my hair? I'm 40 years old. Am I going to lose all my hair?" Right? And then at that point, it started happening all over, that diffuse thinning all over. I mean, being a physician, women get that pattern of baldness that starts in the top. Typically, we don't lose the back of our hair. And so I kind of still had all this. But since this was thinning, everything else was thinning too. And I just had strings and we would cut it shorter and shorter and shorter. And I didn't want short hair. And it was this feeling of feeling lost and confused and frustrated. And to the point, the last major thing I did before I finally went to find an answer was my dermatologist. We did PRP injections in my scalp for 2 years. And you talk about painful and you talk about invasive and expensive. And here's the thing. The crazy part is it worked. The hair would grow back like an inch or maybe 2 and then fall out again. And then we do it again and it would grow back and then it would fall out. And finally, my dermatologist is like, "I can't keep charging you for this." And I would just sit in her office and sob, like, "Why does it work and then it falls out? It works and then it falls out."
What a story. And I bet, I mean, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but like, did you feel like you could confide in your friends about this? Or was this kind of like a big secret? I mean, and also, how did it affect your relationship with your husband?
Great question. Close friends knew how much it was tearing me apart. In general, clients going on appointments, I never talked about it. It was always embarrassing when it would rain and my head would get wet, black, like liquid would kind of drip down my face. If it was even sprinkling, I would have an umbrella because I was so fearful of it. My good friends knew. My husband, my family obviously knew. Funny story about my husband is my husband has a huge head of hair. The mid-40s guy that still has volume, like it sticks up this high. I always make a joke in one of my keynotes. I make a joke. Imagine blow drying your hair next to your husband and it takes him longer to blow dry his hair than yours. That was always a joke in our family. He was incredibly supportive through it all. Of course, he was like, "You're beautiful no matter what." However, he was very supportive in me finding a solution that worked for me. He was so supportive of me spending any kind of money that needed to be spent to feel better about myself. And so he was always my number one cheerleader and supporter and was always incredible through it. I had a very good support system. But to your point, it was only my close circle. People outside did not know I had this problem.
I could see that, like with a lot of skin conditions and scalp too, right? It's so visible. People see it. And there's a lot of like shame around it. And especially as a woman, our hair is our femininity, right? And it's one thing for a man to go bald, right? But women aren't supposed to go bald. And so I feel like it can really affect us.
It's so interesting you say that. My dermatologist, I feel like, was therapy through this. And she still is today. I love her. I still go to her for everything. And she said to me one day something that just struck me. She said, "Your hair is the only organ you do not need in your entire body to survive." And I've never thought of hair as an organ. She's like, "Girl, it lives and dies. It's an organ. It's the only one that you don't need to survive. You need your skin, you need your eyes, right? Well, we all know you can have eyes and not see, but you get what I'm saying. It's the only one that people don't think about." She goes, and yet it causes the most pain in females I've ever seen out of any other thing, because to your point, it's not talked about. Female hair loss is a stigma that is not talked about. Men lose their hair in their 20s and they shave it and they rock it. And what I've learned through this journey, though, is men suffer from this pain too. They just don't talk about it either. But yet when they go out in public with a head shaved, it's no big deal. A woman shows up with a head shaved and it's like, oh, are you okay? Are you sick? Is something wrong with you? And we've got to change that. We frankly have to change that.
Yeah, I'm almost like embarrassed to admit this, but up until, I became like in practice, I didn't think hair loss was a big deal for women. And I'm in medical school and training. I'm a doctor, right? But to me, I was like, oh, that's not really something most women have to deal with. And now what I'm realizing, and maybe it's because of my age and also I've been practicing longer, is that I realized actually this is a huge problem for women. And I do feel like we're finally starting to talk about it. But yes, like men, we know that it can be, men aren't really thrilled about losing their hair, but there is more of an acceptance about it. But to your point, yeah, we're not there yet with women. And you can see by all the commercials, the ads, the products, like this is a multi-million, probably billion-dollar industry, like to grow hair. And people are like actively looking to cure this. I find people when they're desperate for a solution to what they're dealing with, like they will do anything. They will try anything and they will fall into the trap of gimmicks and hype and spend thousands. So what I know you did PRP, and PRP I do actually love for hair loss, but like what were some of the other things you've tried?
I did every serum on the market. I did Viviscal. I did every hair vitamin. I mean, there's so many more now that I probably would have tried then as well. I even tried to beg, you're going to die laughing because you would never do this as a great physician. You can know where I'm going with this. I begged my OBGYN to sign off that I had a hysterectomy and could not get pregnant because of the whatever the prescription is that men can take that women can't. If you're childbearing age and have a uterus, they literally legally cannot give it to you because it causes such high rate of birth defects. And I begged her to lie.
Yeah, probably like dutasteride or Propecia, something like that. Yeah.
Something like that. Like I was desperate. And she's like, no, sweetie, like I'm not losing my medical license to help you get hair. And so I did. I tried it all. I tried every product. And really what pushed me over the edge was talking to a hair surgeon. I went to a hair transplant surgeon. I had gone to one a few years before, but honestly, they were very much on the salesy side of life. And I didn't like that. I felt like I was being sold a bill of goods versus actually talking to a medical professional. So I got a referral to a different hair surgeon. And he was wonderful. He read life into me. He simply came in, looked at everything, talked about my medical history, and he said, listen, sweetie, here's the problem. You have 3 strikes in the hair department. He said, everybody's hair is pre-programmed to fall out at a certain age in their life. Most people, it's later in life. Unfortunately, with you, it's earlier in life. And here's why. He's like, your dad was bald at 25. You have genetic hair loss, whether you want to admit it or not. And I was like, but everyone tells me it comes from your mom. And he's like, it does not pick a winner or loser.
Yeah, it's not that simple.
It's not that simple. He said, you have an autoimmune disorder and you have hypothyroidism. He's like, you have 3 strikes in the hair department and your hair is falling out in your 40s. He said, I could do a $30,000 hair transplant on you. I could tell you that I can do it. I can do it. He told me 2 things that changed my world. He said there's a 60-40 chance that we'll even work on women. And then there's a 90% chance you will have it multiple times in your life before you decide you're done. And the timeline it will take for the hair to grow long enough to where you want it is decades.
That's true, right? Like for men, when they get the hair transplant, like they're just happy with a centimeter, 2 centimeters, an inch, right? But you're looking like you want like your long hair again, right? And well, yeah, I mean, so much there. And I would also add, like, as a woman in your 40s, you're also approaching menopause in the next decade, right? And we know that when you lose estrogen, like, women will lose their hair, it will thin. So it's like that's another strike against that. And I love that he was honest. I always tell people, like, see a doctor who is not afraid to tell you no. Because in this world of cosmetics and cash-based things, there's such an incentive for people to just do whatever they have and to sell it, they want you to buy whatever they're selling. So I really think that's great to hear that he was like, look, like I could do this. Yes. Are you going to get the results you want and feel satisfied? Probably not. So what'd you do?
I was crushed. I was defeated. My husband went with me. I remember distinctly what his office looks like. It's one of those moments where you just know your life was just changed in an instant. And I said, well, let me go home and think about this. And I went home and I thought about it. And I thought, okay, he's right. I don't want to invest that kind of money in something that isn't going to work. I didn't even think about the fact of how long it would take to grow the hair long enough to where I want it. Like that wasn't even something I thought of, because you're right. You see these before and after of men and their hair just pops right up and all the things. And so I said, you know what? I live in Southern California. There has got to be some kind of professional hair company between Newport Beach and Beverly Hills. And I live right in between both of them. And so I went online and I just started searching for human hair alternatives. And I discovered a company in Newport Beach. They happened to be headquartered in Newport Beach. I booked a consultation. I took my 20-year-old daughter with me. She was 20 at the time, for support. And I thought, because on their website, what attracted me to this company is they had what they call full-length toppers, which were essentially full-length extensions that clip onto the top of your head and hang over your bio hair. And I thought, perfect, because I still have all this hair in the back and the bottom, and just I need volume and density, and I need the top covered, right? So I thought I was going to get literally, it's like a toupee for women, but it just hangs long. So that's what I went for. That's what I booked the consultation for. I scoured their website. I looked at pictures. I was like, yes, this is the solution. This is what I can do. And I will never forget the day I went in for that consultation, and Ashley, my amazing consultant, who I'm now dear friends with, she walked in and she took one look at the top of my head and she said, you know, topper isn't going to be an option for you. And I was like, why? And she's like, you don't have enough bio hair on top of your head to clip in the clips. They're going to pull on your baby hair and it's going to be uncomfortable and it's going to slide. It has to anchor into something. And I was crushed. I thought, oh my gosh, there's no solution. And she said, I think you should try on a wig. And I literally looked at her like she was insane, had 3 heads, had foam coming out of her mouth. I was like, you've lost your mind. There's a stigma behind wigs. Wigs look fake, all the things. My 20-year-old daughter turned to me and she's like, Mom, do you know how many women wear full-length extensions? She's like, half of the women you admire their hair, it's fake. And my daughter said to me, Mom, you just need help in a different area. And I always say my daughter changed my life. And she's like, Mom, I think, and here's your 20-year-old daughter who you love and adore, who's like the mini you and who's trying to give you the confidence to try it. And so I said to Ashley, okay, fine, but I'm not going to like it. I'm not going to buy one. You know,
It's almost like you guys, the relationship there was reversed for a minute.
It was. And I was the defiant teenager. You're absolutely correct. And Ashley brought in the hair, not the blonde I'm wearing today, a darker piece that was more like my natural hair color. And she put it on me. And I remember looking in the mirror and I remember just starting to cry. I just started crying. I was like, oh my God, I have not felt like this in a really long time.
Oh my gosh. I just got goosebumps.
Yeah. You know, I went home. I didn't order it that day. I went home. I talked to my husband. My son was playing professional baseball at the time, so he wasn't home. And I really wanted to know that my family was okay with me going through this process. And so I made my husband call my son to tell him what was going on. And my son was just like, oh my God, has it gotten that bad? I almost forget, because he doesn't see me out of the shower. He only sees me like at the baseball field, my hair done. He doesn't like think that it's gotten that bad. And of course he was supportive. My daughter was supportive. My husband was supportive. So I ordered it and the rest is history.
That's amazing. So what's the name of the company? Because it sounds like you like them.
Yeah, they're fantastic. They're fantastic. So the company's Daniel Elaine, but the line is called Folia. So it's Folia by Daniel Elaine. There's a couple top, you know, they're 100% human hair. The ones I wear are 100% hand tied. So they're very high quality pieces, very comfortable. I've had my first 2 pieces that I got from them. I've now had 3 years and I still wear them. This is actually, fun fact, a replacement of one of my first ones, but I still have her. She just is short. We cut her and made her like a little bob. So I have 6 girls now. They all have different names. They all have different personalities. Probably the most pivotal thing I did, and this is where the encouragement I would give to anyone going through this, if you do decide to explore this or make a decision and you think like I did that people are going to make fun of you, people are going to talk about you. One of the crazy decisions I made, and I did it because I knew in my gut, number one, I didn't want people to think I was sick, transparently. I didn't want to show up at a convention or a networking event or go on an appointment and have people be like, oh my God, is she sick? What's wrong? I didn't know she was ill, because I look completely different. And so I said, you know what? I'm going to come out publicly about this. I'm going to share my story, and I'm going to hopefully just help one other lady out there. And so I did. I got my first piece because I had to order it. So it was like 6 weeks. I told all my closest friends what I was doing, but I didn't really tell anybody else because I didn't know how anybody was going to react. Like, oh, that's stupid. Why are you doing that? I didn't know. And so I posted on social media. And what I did was, I had my hairstylist at the last time I got my hair done. I had her take a picture of my hair wet right after she washed it. We brushed it so you could see the scalp, because I never showed that to anybody. And then I didn't even know how bad it had gotten on the sides because I can't see it. So she took pictures kind of at all angles. So I posted those pictures, and I posted it next to me with the wig on. And I said, this is the hardest post I've ever had to write. Many of you don't know I've suffered with this my entire adult life. Told the story and just said, I'm going to own this and I'm going to do this. And oh my God, the reaction and the responses I got was more than I ever could have bargained for. So when you think people don't want to hear your story, and when you think people aren't going to be proud of you, and when you think people aren't going to love it and admire it and let it be who you are, you're missing out on life, because my life's completely changed since the day I put that post up. And that was 3 years and 2 months ago.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I feel like sometimes in our head, we've concocted this story that people are going to make fun of us, are going to not support us, they're going to think we're weird or not want to be around us. But really, once you actually free yourself from that secrecy and that shame, most of the time you're amazed by how much support you have. And then other people come to you saying oh my gosh, I am struggling with the same thing. I am so glad you told me about that and you shared that story. So I know in the moment, I'm sure it was so scary, but then just how freeing afterwards.
It was crazy. 600 and something comments, over 1,000 likes. But the DMs I got was what blew my mind. The DMs I got of women and men telling me, thank you for showing up authentically. You just gave me the courage to go do blank. And I heard all kinds of stories that people are hiding behind. And so, when I present my authenticity keynote that I have on authenticity and this whole story and what it's taught me and how I overcame it all, at the end, I say, what's your hair story? Everyone has a hair story. Everyone has something they're hiding behind that they're not proud of, or that they feel ashamed by, that they maybe need to own and share with the world so that they can get the support and love that they need and don't even know they need. And because I truly believe that. And, when I teach, clearly you don't have hair loss. We talked about, your hair might be thinning a little bit and it's changing, of course, but you clearly don't have a hair loss problem, especially on top of your head. And I tell women all the time, just because you don't have a hair loss problem doesn't mean you don't have another.
I like to say I've got 99 problems, but hair loss is not one, right? That may not be my issue, but trust me, there are other things out there. And I do find we spend so much time perseverating over these things. And it's, how can you really have a full life and be successful when you're feel like you have this secret you've constantly got to keep at bay, and then you can't show up authentically. And so, I mean, it's just amazing. When I heard your story, it's more people need to hear this. And one of our staff members went through chemo and she lost her hair. And of course, breast cancer, right? This was not breast cancer, but women who are suffering breast cancer, right? It's a double hit. They lose their breast and then they also potentially lose their hair. And that can be really hard. But one of our staff members, it was the cancer was gone, but she had lost her hair and that was really weighing on her. And she went and she got a human hair piece like you had. And they had different personalities. One was her summer bob and one was longer. And they've really come a long way with wigs. And I never knew about toppers until a couple of years ago when some of my patients would come in. And unfortunately, a lot of them would get skin cancers on their scalp because the hair was thinner there. And so if they weren't wearing a hat, they would get too much sun on their scalp, just like men get more skin cancers on their scalp. And so then here I am having to do surgery on their scalp. And, they're already worried about losing hair. And then one lady came in with a topper. It looked amazing. I couldn't tell. But you're right. You do need some hair for it to clip onto, for it to look real. But yeah, I mean, I'm just so encouraged that there are these options for people and that you don't have to live with this or feel this shame, that you can just own it. And now you've got like lots of fun wigs. And I'll say one of the perks is your wigs aren't going to go gray.
No, they don't. They don't. People ask me, that's one of the biggest questions I get is, do you still, because I chose to not shave my head. I have a lot of friends in the hair loss community that have chosen to shave their head. I still can put my hair in, I call it my mom bun, like my little tiny, knot on top of my head. And so like, when I take my hair off at night, I still want to have hair and I put it up in a little tiny bun, to walk around, be around the house or whatever. But I always get asked if I color my grays. I'm like, oh, heck yes, I do. I don't want to look at them. And so, but I don't go to my hairstylist. It's been $300 anymore. My sister-in-law happens to moonlight as a hairstylist. So she just comes over and throws some dye in my hair and we drink wine and call it a night. But yeah, I still cover my grays. I also, people ask me all the time, when you go to the gym, what do you do? I put on a hat. What do you do when you swim? I put on a hat. Like that's also why I kept my bio hair, because when I put on a hat, you can't tell. I put my little bob out the ponytail holder. The great part is people don't recognize me. It's the best thing ever because I can go to the gym at a convention center and nobody even knows I'm in there, which is fantastic. I wear a hat at the pool, but I wear them 1,000% of the time. So I don't if I go to a baseball game, I still wear one. I just wear one that isn't as long or hot or, whatever it may be. But yeah, it's just become who I am. My friends all know it. They all know their names. One of the jokes with my girlfriends is when we go to brunch or dinner for their birthdays, I always say, which girl do you want to come tonight to dinner? And they're like, I get to pick. And they're like, is Charlotte clean? I'm like, yes, Charlotte's clean. Charlotte can come tonight. So I have fun with it. And I do make sure I tell, when I'm speaking and doing prep calls, I make sure I tell the event organizer, hey, I may be brown on stage. I don't know. Today I'm blonde. Just so you know, I may not look like my headshot. I don't want to alarm anybody. I'm pretty open and honest about it. If someone walks by me in the mall and says your hair is beautiful, I don't stop them and be like, okay, but by the way, it's a wig. But if I'm meeting, if I go to a group of girlfriends and a new friend's there and they're complimenting on my hair, I tell them. I don't pretend it's not a wig. I'm pretty transparent about it, and it's one of the most liberating things that you can do.
It sounds like, just hearing you talk about it, how freeing it's been. How do you take care of the wigs? How do you clean them and wash them?
You wash them just like human hair. You use high-end products just like human hair because it is human hair. I wash them in the sink. I take them off. Obviously, I don't wash them in the shower or anything. I have a whole system that I do in the sink. I use heat protectant just like normal hair. The beauty is though, I can style it on a wig stand and then put it on my head so I can curl the back perfectly. This is 4 days old, so I wear them about 7 to 10 wears. Just depends on how much hairspray and curling I'm doing. I can straighten them. I can put them up. I can pull it back. I can put clips and bows and everything else in it. And yeah, you pretty much take care of it. The only thing that's different, and obviously as it gets crazier here, the only thing that's different that you would know is you have to add oil back into it. So it's a little dry right now. So tomorrow morning, I'll probably put some hair oil on it because you don't have any natural oils coming through. It does have to be recolored and freshened up but the difference is every 4 or 5 months, not every 4 to 6 weeks, because in the sun, it's human hair. It's going to oxidize and change color and all those things. So I refresh them every 6 months or so. I send them to the wig spa sometimes, which sends them back to Filia, and they do, deep conditioning treatments and make them all silky again. And so it's actually kind of a fun process. They're investments. I'm not going to lie. They're investment pieces. There are lots of companies out there at different price points. You get what you pay for. Mine are 3 years old. That's an investment. But when you do the math, the funny part is one piece, if you do the math, if I added up what I was spending to get my hair done every 4 to 6 weeks for a year, it pays for itself. It's kind of crazy. And then it lasts me 3 years plus. So,
and the product, you feel good about it, right? Even with all the things you were doing before, you were still not satisfied. You were still wanting more,
crying every time I went to get my hair done. Yes.
Right. So yes, I think they are investments. It's like investing in a expensive purse or shoe or whatever. But if you calculate, I'm going to wear this every day and I'm going to feel good and be happy, it's hard to put a price on that.
Well, when I find out how much my girlfriends spend on their extensions, which I could never even do extensions. That's the thing. People are like, why didn't you just do extensions? I'm like, my hairstylist, dude, I don't have enough hair. She's like, what would I tape it onto? It would just pull right out. I didn't even have that. But when I hear how much my friends spend on extensions and to move them up and to replace them, I'm like, you guys are spending more than my wigs in the long run.
Yeah, like you guys need to go get a wig. Also, the extensions, they can damage the hair that you have, like the little bit that you have left. So it can be tricky. Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm so glad you found something that works for you. And I think this is important just to bring up, like sometimes with all the hair loss products and procedures, and there's a lot of stuff, like even there's some stuff coming out with like stem cells and all this, like there's definitely progress being made and things we can do, but not everyone is a slam dunk. Not everyone gets a cure, right? And this can be frustrating because people spend a lot of money and they want it to work, but it doesn't always work. And so it's one of those things, like why it didn't work for you, but it works for others. It's a lot of stuff, right?
Ugh. You talk about, I mean, what's crazy is, so I obviously minoxidil and Rogaine is something I used for years as well.
With medicine, with our bodies, right? Like it's not black or white. And PRP, for some people, it works amazing. And then for others, it doesn't work as well. So there's so many variabilities, and hair loss is like multifactorial, like so many different things can be contributing to it. And I don't like it when I see people post where they almost make it sound like it's your fault for having hair loss, like you're brushing it too much or you're not eating clean and everything. And so I just would want to let anyone listening know now, yeah, there's some things like pulling your hair in tight braids that can cause some alopecia and all that. But like for so much of this, it's not anything you're doing. It's stuff out of your control for a lot of it. And even when you find out some of the causes like the Hashimoto's, we can't always reverse it completely and reverse it to where you're happy.
Yeah. And I really appreciate that you say that, because I still get some people who are like, well, did you try this? Did you try this? Did you try eating better? And I'm like,
did you eat clean? Did you eat organic?
Right. I'm like, really what it was for me was when the hair surgeon said, your dad was bald at 25. And I was like, oh yeah, I never thought about it, because, that was a question on his intake sheet. What's your mom's hair like? What's your dad's hair like? My mom's full head of hair, thick. She's now late 70s and just thinning now. My dad was bald at 25. And he was like, okay, well, there's a marker right there that you were given and you can't do anything. You cannot change your genetics. And so it was one of those things that kind of was what did it for me. I was like, wow, I never even thought about that. No matter how good I eat, no matter how healthy I am. Now, did Hashimoto's and thyroid and everything else speed it up? Did potentially not eating clean speed it up? Who knows? Did maybe 10 more hairs fall out because I didn't eat organic? I don't know. But the whole genetic thing was something that I wasn't going to overcome.
If like a cure came out for hair loss tomorrow, like, would you take it?
Great question. No. In fact, a year or two ago, something came out. There was something new drug out there that was all over my hair loss community pages that women were trying. And a friend asked me if I would. And I was like, there's just no point at this point. I love my wigs. They're who I am. I enjoy wearing them. I don't mind wearing a hat when I want to go walk the beach and get sweaty. I don't mind it. And no, I think the risk of the side effects, because let's face it, any new hair loss drug treatment, as you know, as a physician, comes with its risks. And I don't feel I need to take them.
It's like you're at peace with where you are. And I mean, it's totally like skyrocketed this whole new like adventure avenue for you with your speaking and everything like that. So it's like, again, like everything happens for a reason, right? Some amazing things came out of this that at your 30-year-old self couldn't see, but now you can, looking back.
No, and it's funny as I even look at old pictures and things come up in memories, and I'm like, who is that girl? And what it did was transparently, it spiraled me into losing 45 pounds. It spiraled me into finally getting Invisalign and straightening my teeth and just little things that I wanted to do for myself and a healthier, better version of me. And so now I've got beautiful hair. I love that my friends are envious of my hair now, and I'm envious of their hair. My best friend's 54, almost 10 years older than me, and she has the most amount like hair like yours, and we crack up laughing all the time at it, but now she's envious of my hair. And yeah, it triggered me to like, I'm going to do these other things too that I want to feel good about and make positive, healthy decisions in my life. And it's a completely different version of me than it was before. And the one thing I would end with is friends tell me all the time, you're so much more confident now. I hear that all the time from friends and people in my life. And the thing I always tell them is you don't put hair on your head and become confident overnight. You truly don't. It was something that was always inside of me. I just had all these walls up around me. And I finally let down the walls by stepping into this is who I am, stepping into I don't care your opinion of my hair. I'm going to do it anyways because it makes me happy. And then applying that to the other areas of my life is really where the transformation happened.
Oh my gosh, it's such a great way to wrap things up on that. Yeah, like I think sometimes people think that's so vain, right? Like you just need to be confident on the inside. And I am all about confidence from the inside out. And if anything, like the best cosmetic results happen when you feel good on the inside out. But it was like you had that, you just had this block there. And once you had your hair, then everything else was like free to open up, but it was already in there. So yeah, this is like an example where like you look good, you feel good, and then all these other things just fall into place. So yeah, I mean, hair, you can look at it as just vanity, but it really is more than that. And your story really illustrates that.
I would end with one of the things I teach is you can't have an authentic relationship with anyone else till you have one with yourself. And that's what happened to me. Once you really love who you are and what you're designed to be, then you do walk into appointments more confident. You do walk into interviews more confident. You show up at birthday parties and celebrations and, social events more confident. And then people sense it. They feel it. And then it's amazing what happens as a result.
This has been so much fun. And I know that this message is going to resonate with probably a lot of people listening who are struggling, whether it's hair loss or something else that's holding them back, right? Like this is just one example, but fill in whatever you're dealing with, right? Because we're all dealing with something. And I love that you shared that. And I know people are going to want to follow you, find out what you're doing. Where can they connect with you?
Instagram's the best place. So I'm just at Barb Betts. I'll, send it to you for the show notes. And I share a lot on there about business, about my personal life. And then there's a ton of hair loss and confidence and inspiration there about going through my wig wearing journey. I share myself with hair on, with hair off. I don't hide behind it anymore. I come on with no makeup, which I never would have done before. I actually have a port wine stain that I hid behind for years too. Whole nother conversation for another day. But yeah, I'm pretty much an open book and I love to connect with other women there. So just DM, tell me you heard the podcast and I'd love to have a conversation with you. And if you have any hair loss questions or any wig questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Well, I would definitely include all of that and the wig that you mentioned.
Yeah, I'll send you. I actually have a page on their site with a ton of pictures and videos and information. So I'll send you that as well.
Perfect. Well, awesome. Well, this was so much fun. Thank you, Barb, for being here. I really appreciate your vulnerability, your honesty, and coming so authentically to this. Really amazing. And we'll see everyone next week.